Today, we are going to look into a topic that is becoming more and more critical in today's digital world: operational technology, or in short form, OT. You probably have heard about IT, information technology, the computers, network, and systems that runs our email, website, and applications. OT is something different. It is what keeps the factory running, power plant producing electricity, and water treatment facilities delivering clean water, and even elevator moving up and down safely. In today's video, we are going to break down what is OT and how it's different than IT, and why this distinction matters, and what happens in the future when IT and OT blend in together. My name is Dr. Abdoli, and this is Tech Talk Time. Let's start by answering the first questions. What is OT, or operational technology? OT is a combination of hardware and software that control and monitor some physical processes. To understand this better, let's take a look at some examples in the real world. For example, in manufacturing, industrial robots, conveyor belts, microcomputer, which has a different name in that context, which we call program logic controller, or PLCs, that do factory precision. In pharmaceutical industries, clean room, automated mixings and packaging system, which ensures safety and compliance. In oil and gas and refineries, OT monitors drilling rigs, pipelines, and refinery operations. In power plants, OT control reactor cooling system, turbine speeds, and shutdown procedure. And in water management systems, pumps, valves, treatment process, where they work together to keep the water clean and safe. In transportation, railway signaling, airport baggage system, and smart traffic lights, where they keep people and goods moving safely. Each of these industries depends on OT for real-time, reliable, and safe control of physical processes. In simple terms, OT controls the physical world. It's about machines, sensors, and actuators and systems that directly interact with the environment around us. Now, let's contrast that with the information technology, or IT. IT is everything to do with data processing, storage, communication, and so on. The examples are your laptop and email systems, database storing financial records, and cloud platform hosting your applications, or cybersecurity tools protecting your system and network. IT is mainly focused on information flow, capturing, storing, moving, and protecting the data. So the big picture is, IT is something that manages the data and business processes. On the other hand, OT is something that manages the machines and industrial processes. Now let's take a look at the key differences between IT and OT. When we design and maintain and operate IT and OT system, we have to follow some principles and priorities. In IT, we follow SIA principle, which basically is a short form for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what it means is that the data in the transit or in storage or at rest has to stay confidential. Nobody except the authorized users or the owner should be able to manipulate or change the data. That means integrity. And availability means that the computer system and networks and the data should be available to the users and the consumer. So this is SIA. In OT, this priority is kind of reverse. So what it means is that the uptime, availability, and safety comes first. Regarding lifespan of this system, IT normally has the lifespan of 3 to 5 years. and that is dictated by the product manufacturer and vendors mostly. So if you have a Windows system, you know that your operating system become obsolete something between 3 to 5 years. So what it means, Microsoft is not going to basically support that operating system in terms of cybersecurity or bugs within the software after 5 years. So if something happened to that operating system, or the hacker or cyber criminals find some vulnerability within that operating system, then the Microsoft is not responsible for patching and updating the software. You will be at your own risk if you use the older version of Windows, if at this point they are not supported by Microsoft. So that's why software and product kind of dictate the lifespan of the IT system. In OT, on the other hand, the lifespan can go about more than 10 years and sometimes decades. So it means that maybe a facility owner have some microcomputer, which we refer as to PLC, that age more than 30 years. And there are different reasons for that, why these lifespan are common in OT area. First is that replacement of those microcomputers is not an easy task, like replacing a computer. You can simply take the computer and replace it with some other new computer, easy. But when you are operating some basically manufacturing facility, a power plant or something similar to that, when you want to replace that piece of equipment, you have to change the wiring and then update the electrical infrastructure related to that, and sometimes the mechanical part. So it's gonna take some time, and it causes some downtime, which might not be tolerable by the facility owner. So that's a reason they keep the operation running until something happens. So the lifespan is more basically about like 10 years or even decades, 30 years or 40 years in OT. In terms of environment, normally IT runs in clean server rooms and probably offices that are well maintained. On the other hand, OT runs in harsh environmental condition or dirty manufacturing, facilities, such as hot oil refineries or offshore rigs. The other major difference between IT and OT is related to cybersecurity methodology and approaches. IT security is normally about firewalls, encryption technique, antiviruses, and network access controls. OT cybersecurity is somehow different than IT. It includes some component of what we have mentioned for IT, but mainly there are two key strategies that we use in OT environments. One is the concept of zoning and segmentation. So what it means is that to create a virtual boundary around OT component and devices to protect them from attack from external network. So that boundary, you keep those running safe. And the reason for that is that some of the technique that we mentioned before that use in IT cannot be applied to those components, systems that run in OT environment. And the reason for that is that we are having a lot of legacy system and devices that run in OT environment. By legacy, we mean that those old, computer system that we call PLC or remote terminal units, or even the operating system that those kind of systems are running now, that are kind of not supported by the manufacturer anymore. And that's why they inherently have some cybersecurity vulnerabilities. So for us, as a cybersecurity professional and engineer, we cannot basically rely on what the product manufacturer offers for cybersecurity. So it means that the patches are not available anymore for those firmware for microcomputers, and the update and support from the for the operating system is not there anymore. So what we do as cybersecurity professional and engineers is that we create a virtual boundary around those operations to protect them from the external attack. So that means like kind of zoning. Segmentation means separating those basically OT system or subsystem from one another. And the reason is that assume that a cyber criminal or hacker somehow access into OT environment. By segmenting the OT network, we kind of limit the damage and compromise to that one segment only. So it means that even though if they get into the network, we are kind of, the attack and the compromise is going to be limited. So the damages that they can do going to be limited to that specific segment. So segmentation and zoning is very, very important in OT environment. So the second important strategy in terms of cybersecurity in OT environment is monitoring the physical processes that run in the environment, in the OT environment. So what we do, we continuously monitor the network and industrial communication protocols to search and see the abnormal behavior. And we find that out with basically the base operation and the benchmark operation of the physical processes within that specific facilities. If something abnormal is seen with the behavior that we see every day, then we know some suspicious activity has happened. Either that is due to an error or faulty devices, or that's due to some cyber attack. We have talked about IT and OT in isolation, and we compare the distinction and differences between these two technologies. Now the question is that whether these two somehow related, or maybe these two kind of blending together in the future and now. And the answer to that question is yes. So wherever you have OT infrastructure, you have an IT infrastructure that somehow is connected to it. Take an example for manufacturing that we know that OT is part of that. So you may have remote workforce or business unit within that organization that oversees these manufacturing processes, right? You have your remote workforce that are accessing the OT environment from beyond the physical boundary of that manufacturing. So what it means that the remote workforce somehow access the internet, they come through the internet and they go to the IT infrastructure of that entity and access the OT environment. So the remote workforce is one of the reasons that IT and OT are converging. So the IT part of it is the remote workforce that access the internet, and internet means some huge external network that your user has to go through in order to reach to that OT part of the entity. So that's IT and then connect to OT. So that's one of the reasons. So remote workforce, which become more and more common after 2019 when COVID has happened. The second factor that IT and OT are becoming related and converging is the innovation that we have in communication technology and in general in technology field. Now, in olden days, we have kind of sensors that were connected to a control system of the organization through wires. Now we have sensors and actuators that they have the capability to connect to the cloud, as well as connecting to the PLC through wireless communications. So the advancement somehow created that opportunity to be able for those field devices to communicate beyond the physical boundary of OT environment. So these two main factors basically driving the convergence of IT and OT. So to summarize, in the past, OT systems were isolated and air-gapped from the internet. But now, with the rise of Industrial Internet of Things, IIoT, that we talk about, an example of a sensor that in addition to communicating through a wire, they have now capability to communicate wirelessly and connecting to the cloud and so on. And the Industry 4.0 and the concept of a smart factory, OT is becoming more and more connected to IT network. So that's the take from that. And you might ask, so what is the reason for that? Why we are doing this and embracing the new technology in the OT environment? So there are many benefits of doing that. First is about real-time data analytics from factory machines. So we can directly get the data from sensors and actuators, bring it to the cloud, combine this, make a kind of an archive of the data, and do some data analytics. For what? For optimization and better decision making to increase the product efficiency and lowering the cost of the operations. Second is predictive maintenance. Now, with the introduction of IIoT and Industry 4.0, predictive maintenance would be possible. So it means that you will be fixing equipment before they fail to increase, again, uptime and increase the efficiency of operation. And that's, again, boils down to business goal and increasing the profit margin and profitability of the organization. Other new technology that's become kind of feasible at this point are digital twins, where you are making a digital replica of your physical asset. And that's, again, is related to using the data and optimizing the whole process or within that infrastructure. That, again, at the end of the day, leads to product efficiency and increasing the profitability of your operation. The other important factor is the remote monitoring and control. So what is the benefit of that? So one of the major driving factors for remote monitoring and control is to use expertise and highly skilled workers and engineers that may not be available in your physical basically locations. So you might have a factory that runs in Arizona, but you lack expertise in some specific area, and engineers, for example, from New York or California can access the facility and help you running your operations. So that's one of the reasons that remote workforce and control is one of the benefits of basically converging IT and OT. We have talked about the converging IT and OT and the many benefits that this convergence bring. One of which is the competitiveness of that specific industry, which means that if the manufacturer owner or the business owner kind of wanted to avoid this convergence, they will not stay competitive in the market and eventually they go out of business. So that's one. And the other many benefits that we talk about. So the question right now is this very good? So all these are positive. Is there any risk associated to that convergence? And the answer is yes. Cybersecurity is one of the issues when you basically converge OT and IT. And the reason for that increase in risk for cybersecurity is the existence of the legacy devices in OT environment. As we have mentioned before, the priority in designing and operating and OT environments and related technology was safety and reliability and availability of those platforms. So 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when the OT basically designed and operated for those facilities, cybersecurity wasn't a thing because those systems were air-gapped. So it means that they were kind of disconnected from the external world, and anybody with the physical perimeter of the OT environment was kind of trusted. So security wasn't the thing to think about. Now, with the convergence of IT and OT, now that's become a problem because all of those infrastructure that designed with the safety in mind, now they become cybersecurity holes and doors and open doors to cyber criminal and attacker because they weren't made and designed with cybersecurity in mind. So cybersecurity is an issue when the convergence is happening. So what this means for those organizations? So it means that the organization needs to hire engineers and professionals that are familiar with both IT and OT world. So it means that there is a skill gap in between which needs to be filled up. So if you have like a control system engineers, they somehow need to update their knowledge in cybersecurity area for IT as well as OT. And if you have IT and cybersecurity professional, they need to become familiar with the devices and systems that are running in OT environment. Otherwise, they won't be able to apply cybersecurity and IT technique to protect the whole infrastructure that now include both IT and OT. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content in this area. In the future and upcoming video, we are going to talk about the cybersecurity of OT in more detail. In the comment below, let me know where do you see the convergence of IT and OT is happening? And what do you think about OT cybersecurity? Is it a threat or is it an opportunity for professionals that are working in the area of cybersecurity and control system engineering? Thank you for watching and see you next time.